Good afternoon, everyone. We're Team 5, and we will be presenting the Lehman Brothers case. And we'll be focusing on the leadership styles and how it affects an organization as a whole. I'll be passing it to Raju for opening statements.
What is this? What do you know? A question for all of you. How will you feel when your boss treats you like this in the company? You will feel bad, right? I want to show you a video of a CEO who behaves improper in public.
Some traders were driving down his stock price. But what I really want to do is I want to reach in, rip out their heart, and eat it before they die.
He is Richard Ford, the last CEO of Lehman Brothers. He is not only responsible for the growth of the company from $2 billion to $47 billion within 13 years, but he is also responsible for the downfall and bankruptcy of the company within 2 years of time. He received the Best CEO Award of the World in 2006, and then he received the Worst CEO Award of the World in 2008. Why? Just because of his leadership style. Lehman Brothers, a 150-year-old company which not only survived World War I, World War II, but so many other crises in between that period, and got bankrupt within 2 years? My colleague Abdulaziz will walk you through the details of how the leadership style of the top management affected the company and led to its downfall.
Thank you, Karanchu. As my colleague stated, I'll be talking about how leadership style ultimately affected the culture of the company and ultimately led to its downfall. So to start, I'll be identifying what kind of leader Richard Ford was. He was a narcissistic leader, which means a leader they just care about their self-image and they have massive egos. In the short term, these leaders, they usually have a negative, in the short term, these leaders exude confidence, knowledge, ability, and they bring success to the company. But in the long term, they ultimately have a negative impact on the organization. And once they're established in positions of authority, they're extremely difficult to challenge. And this exactly describes Richard Ford. So to start, I'll be talking about his ego and how that created an environment that surrounded him, and ultimately how that transferred into a dictatorial or fearful environment within the organization, and how that affected the organization as a whole. So with his success, Richard Ford brought to the company, he inflated his ego. He had a private bathroom, a personal conference room, and upon his arrival to the organization, he used to take a private elevator to the 31st floor, which allowed him to become disconnected from the organizations and the employees. The employees, after this, they became fearful of Richard Ford. He had a dictatorial-like environment, and he said anything he said, you had to do. He ruled with absolute iron fist, and if he once told someone to approve a trade, and he said, I can't until my desk is cleared, so he cleared the desk for him. People were scared of this guy. They wouldn't even want to talk to him, scared of being fired, because once he fired a woman just for looking the wrong way. She was overweight, he said, get out of here. This is who you're dealing with. So this ultimately led to a barrier between the employees and the leader. And this is seen, and this impacted the company as a whole, because when executives told him that you need to sell the company because the market share is going down, and we have a financial issue within the organization, he said, shut up and get out of here. He kicked him out. He ended up firing his CFO, his chief risk specialist, and also his chief market specialist. So in all, Richard Ford's narcissistic leadership style affected the company in a negative way and ultimately contributed to its downfall. And now my beautiful colleague Aya will give some recommendations that we can give some recommendations.
Thank you, Abdulaziz. As my colleague just showed you how Richard's leadership style affected negatively the organization, I'm going to give now some recommendations that Richard could have used in order to prevent the problem or perhaps reduce the cost of it. Leadership is the ability to influence people towards the achievement of goals in an organization. It's a key factor in any company. It's very important because it has a direct impact on many aspects of the organization, such as the culture and the motivation of the employees. Not everyone is a leader. What makes a person a leader? A leader has many characteristics, such as flexibility and adaptability. He has to be flexible and adapt to any surrounding and situations. Second, he has to be a very good communicator by being an active listener. For instance, he can set some monthly or weekly meetings to listen to the employees. Third, he has to be respectful. Being a leader doesn't allow him to disrespect or be unethical. He should follow the code of conduct of the organization. Fourth, he has to be interested in feedbacks and know that feedbacks are good for him to improve. So Richard had the total opposite characteristics of what I just mentioned. He was a dictator and a narcissistic leader. The culture in the organization was a dictatorial culture. When he had to have a participative leadership style, in that case, he will take the final decision, but after listening to the employees and taking their opinion into consideration. Richard used only the downward communication when he had to use both downward and upward communication. For example, some employees suggested to sell the company before it went bankrupted, but he never listened because of his high self-confidence and high ego. We're not only blaming Richard for the bankruptcy, but he's one of the key important factors that led to this problem. If he had a different leadership style and a different leadership characteristics, and the organization had a different culture, perhaps the cost of the problem would be less. Now I'm going to give the final statement. I'm going to invite Priyanshu.
This is a beautiful and charming rose, like you all. Now it's looking ugly, right? This is the effect of bad leadership on an organization. I hope the message is clear. Thank you.
So obviously we mentioned that the CEO once won the best CEO at some point. So what do you think were the factors that made him win, or what leadership aspects did he have that made him win that position?
Well, it's like Roger said, he brought the company from a $2 billion profit to a $47 billion profit. So just the success that he brought within the organization, that's what gave him the CEO, best CEO of the year. That's pretty much it. Jamal? No, not Jamal.
What made him change from 2006 to 2008?
I think he was power drunk and he got engrossed in his job. He basically forgot about the idea of the company and he was just himself. He wanted to get everything and he wanted to do everything for himself. So it changed everything, the perspective of the company and his life.
Terrence.
Okay, so his employees, so they were all afraid of working for him. Was there a high turnover rate, or were everyone just being compliant and doing exactly what he said?
It was some high, we can see that it was high turnover rate in the company, but especially he influenced to create a turnover because he intentionally fired a few of the top managers because basically they were giving him advice to do this and not to do some things, and he fired a lot of people. And if someone he can fire people without any reason, so obviously it was a very high turnover.
And this also, he could fire anyone because ultimately he was making the final decisions and he was running the company, so it didn't matter for him who was working for him.
Aziz.
I'm not sure if you guys focused on this, but did he paint a different picture to the board of directors? Did he give them the impression that things were fine?
He basically painted the board of directors were crippled. They didn't have any say in the ideology. Fine, they were the board of directors, but he was doing so good that they couldn't help it. It's like you having a very good leader and you couldn't help it, but just let him run. So the picture was clear, but the profit was coming at that point, so they didn't have any say.
Mohammed.
Would you say that he started being self-oriented and narcissistic after getting the money, or was he before and he was just hiding it?
No, he was before a narcissist. Usually when narcissists, like I explained, in the short term, they bring success and they exude confidence. But only when situations become bad, like with the finance of the company and they start going downhill, their narcissist comes out and they blame everybody else, and that's when it comes out, really. So you can't really tell what a narcissist leader is until situations, the environment brings it out of them.
Aviank?
Were there any other factors that contributed to the fall of Lehman Brothers other than just his leadership style?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what we said. He's not the only one to blame. I mean, a lot of bad investments, and also the market as a whole. I mean, they weren't bailed out, but other companies or banks after them, they were bailed out. So he was an issue for the company, but also the market did play a part in that.
Well, first, how was the relationship between the CEO and the other upper management managers? And how did the CEO communicate his message all the way down to frontline employees in the organization?
Basically, he was the only and like the most powerful person in the company, and the relationship between other top management and managers and him was like very strict because he was ruling everyone in the company, which even like the board of like directors, other like top management. So he basically says what company needs to do, and everyone does that. And usually it wasn't ever a question, or no one was brave enough to say that. But if even they said, they was fired immediately.
In a situation where the CEO or the top person in the company is the problem, what recommendation, if any, could you give for someone that's in the lower level that doesn't have the control to make, powerful changes? Like, is there any suggestion that you have for that situation?
I think there is a lot of recommendation, and one of the important, in this case, people need to, I think that if one person will complain, it will make nothing. So I think in this case, people need to create a few communities and unite together. Let's say that it was a huge company, and as far as I know, it was more than 20,000 employees. And if, let's say that like people who worked there was like 100 and 1,000 people who are complaining, they should be brave enough to raise the issue. One person cannot do a lot, but if like it's 1,000 people, people need to talk, they need to communicate. Because I assume that it was a lot of people who are like very unhappy in this company. So they should have been creating like a community and try to raise their voice with the amount they have.
Thank you very much, guys.